Good afternoon. Welcome to the final session of Diggers and Dealers for 2021. My name is Courtney Libby and I'm a corporate finance analyst at Canaccord Genuity in Melbourne. I managed to get into WA before the borders were closed, have done my 2 weeks quarantine, and so I'm really excited to be here today chairing this session of great explorers, developers and producers. I understand it's the final session of a big few days, so let's jump straight into it and I'll do my best to keep us to time. Our first speaker is Tony James, Managing Director of Galena Mining. Tony has over 30 years mine operating and project development experience, predominantly in WA. He also has experience as Managing Director of 3 other ASX-listed companies, successfully guiding 2 of those companies through a merger and takeover process. Tony is no stranger to bringing projects into production, having helped bring the Pillara Zinc Lead Mine and the Trident Higginsville Gold Mine into production. Given this background, he is experienced to lead Galena Mining forward as it completes mine development and infrastructure construction of the Abra Lead Silver Mine. Please put your hands together for Tony.
Thank you, Libby, and good work on your quarantine. Coming back to WA, well done. That's really good. And ladies and gentlemen, it's absolutely fantastic to be back at Diggers and haven't been here for a while. So I'm probably out of form. I haven't done a formal presentation for quite a few years, so this is my first formal presentation. So go easy on me. I'll do the best I can, and I hope you enjoy the Galena story. And I hope you actually see what I see in the Galena story, and it's a really interesting story going forward. I'd like to acknowledge my predecessor, Alex Molyneux, who I know is sitting in Taiwan, probably watching on live stream, and everybody else out there in the live stream world. I'm glad you could tune in and watch this presentation, and I hope you stay safe and you stay well and you get back over here and see us again as soon as you possibly can. Before I start, I'd just like to quickly acknowledge the Ngunnawal, Wurundjeri and the Ngarluma peoples, past, present and emerging, and they're the traditional custodians of the land where the Abra project is situated. So that photo, the front cover, shows you the camp that we've built, 280-person camp, 2.5 kilometres in the background. You can see the tailings area that we've cleared, the ROM pad that we've put in, waste dump and the box cuts constructed. So we're ready to go. We're ready to start building the Abra project. But where we start is we need to talk about the joint venture arrangement, which is Abra. So Galena is 60%, owns 60% of Abra, and 40% is owned by Toho Zinc through CBH Western Australia, and that is the Abra joint venture. And this is very important. This is a very important place to start when we talk about this project, because you need to understand Toho and Toho's involvement with this joint venture, because it then starts to give you the whole journey of where we're going, what we're doing, and what could potentially develop into. Toho is a company that's been around for quite a long time in Japan. They started off in the 1930s, and they're originally Japan Zinc Smelting Company, and they have this smelter in Chigurashima, that's the photo of Chigurashima, which is quite a spectacular facility, which is in the Bay of Hiroshima, and it's basically wall-to-wall smelter and refinery. All the people that travel out to the smelter go out on ferry every day to work. And Chigurashima was turned into a lead smelter refinery in the 1950s. And then Toho, over their many, many years of being a very strong corporate company in Japan, have ventured into many areas. And one of the interesting things, I think the soft calm product that they made, which was a lead-line wall for soundproofing in buildings, was extraordinary piece of engineering, and I think they still make that and sell those today. Excuse me. In the 2000s, they came into Australia through CBH Australia, and then in 2012, they opened the Ras mine in New South Wales and fully acquired CBH Resources, which was pretty important. In 2019, they then got into the Abra joint venture, which was with Galena. So Japan contributes about 2% of the world's lead production, which is not very much, but Toho is probably the biggest player in the domestic market in Japan for lead production and supply. Toho imports about 140 to 160,000 tonnes of lead concentrate a year, straight to Chigurashima. They don't necessarily use it all, but they're quite active in trading and other things as well. But here's the thing. So why is Toho interested in Abra? And why are they interested in what we've been doing at Abra and our story? And it's really quite simple, and I can only make it as simple as I possibly can. They've invested $90 million to come into this project. What Abra gives them is 16 years plus of concentrate supply. It gives them quality concentrate at 74% lead. The low end of the silver at about 120 grams per tonne silver. But if you compare that to what's available in the market, it is significant. The lead's 10% better, even though the silver's at the low end of the grade. But when you talk about deleterious elements, this is the kicker. Our concentrate, and the best way to explain this very quickly and easily, is 1/10 of the normal concentrate deleterious elements that you get in a concentrate. And that is significant. And that is significant in Toho's world. And that's why they made the investment into this project. I recommend you go onto their website and have a look at their website. It's very well written. It's very interesting, and you'll find out lots of very interesting information about Toho. Fabulous joint venture partners, the Japanese, and they've been so good with us. They've been so patient. And to Hideki-san and all your workers in Japan, we wish you safe and you're going okay. And Galena, the other part of the joint venture, who are we? I think this is quite a good story too, and it probably hasn't had the credit that it should have over the journey listed in 2017. Very short life. And if we get this mine up and producing sort of the end of next year, this is going to be a very quick time frame. And you think about the year that we had last year, which was quite a difficult year, we had to go through quite a bit to get to that end game. So it's been a very short period of time. 476 million shares on offer. When I did this, it was at 24 cents, so it's $116 million market cap. So I think when you get through the end of the story, you'll see that it's quite low value, something that you need to perhaps have a look at. I think we're up to 27, 28 cents today. So we have had a reaction to some of the work that we've been doing and talking about this week, which is fantastic. So what's this about? So they're the people that are involved. They're the people I've had a look at. And the thing that attracts me to this particular area is that not only this is a new mine going in, it's a new mine in a new mineral province. The shaded area is the Edmund Sedimentary Basin. And where Abra sits is in the middle of the Edmund Sedimentary Basin. It sort of sits on top of the Yilgarn Craton and before you get up into iron ore country. And it's a classic sedimentary system, and there's very, very little gone on here. Very, very small amount of work that's been done here, some low-level exploration. Geologists have been looking at it for a long time. And what Galena has done is that we unpacked this. We unpacked Abra, and we spent a lot of time pulling it apart and putting it back together to see what we could actually do with that. And then the outcome of all of that is Toho's interest, pulled together the joint venture. So what I like about this is that this is not just going and building a new mine. We are going into a new mineral province, which I think has a very long life. And why I'm really attracted to this is because this is a story that fits into WA, this classic WA new mining area. It's right in our wheelhouse and it's right in our backyard. And that's the thing that attracts me to this project more than anything. It's time to get on with it. Let's get on with it and see what we can do. Very close to the Port of Geraldton. We have all our permits in place. Geraldton has the infrastructure to handle our concentrate. Everything's pretty well up and ready to go. And this is the area that I think is really interesting, and from an exploration point of view, it's really, really interesting. On the right-hand side, you see the Abra tenement package, which is our joint venture package. And Abra sitting in there, it's 34 million tonnes at 7.2% lead, 16 grams per tonne silver. A massive resource sitting in the middle of those tenements. But when you look around Abra, look around that 107 square kilometres, 107 kilometre squared package, there are many, many other targets that desperately need some work, and we need to get on and have a look at those. Sultan, which used to be Hyperion, Bazaar, Genie, Lamplight and Jasmine are all very similar geophysical targets, and all have some drilling in them that would indicate that it needs lots of follow-up work, because there's no reason why they couldn't be similar to Abra. Iago and Raja, no drilling out there yet, but geophysically they look very similar as well. So that's the Abra joint venture. We've got a lot of work to do there. And then when you go to the left, 76 kilometres or a 508 kilometre squared package of ground that's 100% Galena. It's along the Quartzite Well fault zone, and the Woodlands complex, the Quartzite Well complex, and Copper Chert and Manganese Range are all areas of extreme and very interesting targets. There's probably over 60 targets in this package. The ones that we're going to spend some time pretty early on in the piece to have a look at again is the Woodlands complex and certainly the Manganese Range complex, but I draw your attention to Copper Chert, which needs special attention, some very shallow drilling there, some very good indicators that there's some serious copper perhaps in that area. So that's the Galena story that bolts onto the side of the Abra story. That's all part of the Edmund Basin. And this place needs a serious amount of work. Most of it's undercover. We need to get busy doing lots of drilling and lots more work. And we are learning so much about this area. Every drill hole we drill, the more time we spend, we just learn more and more and more. Building the Abra mine is the thin end of the wedge into the Edmund Basin. When you build a mine and you go through the process of drilling and understanding the resource, you learn so much. But there's nothing better than going down a decline and walking into the heading and looking at the ore body. I've seen this many times. I've actually seen geologists, the penny drops. They're in the ute, they all charge off to the core farm and they go, aha. So that's what's going on in that ore body. And it's usually typically somewhere between 2 to sort of 6 months after they first go in there and have a look at the ore body. That's what we have to do here now. We've got a lot of information, but what we need to do is drive the thin end of the wedge into this Edmund Basin and take this province forward. And we do that through starting up Abra. So our quick story is, in April 2009, we did the Toho deal with a feasibility study shortly after. Last year was a little bit interesting because we had 13 financial organisations in our books looking at what we were doing, considering financing this project, and that was just before the COVID hit. And I've got to tell you that credit committees disappeared pretty quickly once COVID hit. But look, I think that's reasonable. You know, who knows what was coming? So we had to restructure our ideas and our thinking. We then went and put another 25 kilometres of infill drilling into the ore body, and then we were able to do the deal with Taurus on the debt facility. We're basically accessing site now, next year's build year, first concentrate in Q1 2023. Our funding, we have in place, the funding available, 243 million. Sorry, a bit thirsty. Our current buffer on what our expected uses are is 28 million. So we're ready to go. Standard debt agreement that we have with Taurus has been put in place. Project completion, contracts executed, plant, site bulk earthworks, infrastructure part 1, power, LNG supply, fuel and facilities, villages, the village, and our long lead items commitments have been made, so we're ready to go. A couple of contracts just to still be executed is mining, pastefill plants, which we're bringing up from Higginsville, was a plant that I built at Higginsville, and the concentrate haulage. So all of that is pretty well locked in and up and running and going. The resource and mineralisation, massive resource. I won't go through this in too much history, but you can see here what's happened and why these things appear in clusters in this type of sedimentary basin. You can just imagine for us non-geological types how the fluids have come up and then they've hit that jasperite lid on the top of that sediment and it's come up through the core, hit the jasperite and just spewed sideways all the way around. This thing's open in all directions. So it's a massive thing, and what we've done in our mine plan is that we've pulled out about 16 million tonnes at 8% to go and mine. But it's a massive, massive deposit. And if you believe like I do that when you look at a piece of drill core that the micro is the macro, it's going to be very interesting once we get down there and have a look at it. The mine plan, which was in the feasibility study, there's a good picture of Optus Stadium where those mighty Dockers played really well last Sunday, and you can actually see the size of that compared to the stoping. What I really like about this underground mine, it's pretty simple. We've put in a simple decline, simple stoping structure, and it's really, really encouraging. At 1.2 million tonnes per annum, the rate determining step will be materials handling. and we think we can get around that. We're putting in some good systems and processes. This mine only needs to go down at 40 vertical metres per annum to hit that production rate. Most gold mines are trying to push out 70 or 80 vertical metres per annum. So this is very, very, very doable in terms of a mine production scenario, which I like. The plant, GR Engineering have done a fantastic job with the plant. Conventional 3-stage crushing and grinding, 75% lead con. We have our project kick-off meeting with GRs tomorrow, who is our EPC contractor, so they're ready to go and get up and running. If we look at the feasibility study results, all of this stuff's available online if you want to go back and look at the detail. But one of the interesting things I'd like to show you here is the forecast lead price over the years, the actual lead price, the forecast lead price moving forward, and what the lead price was last week on the 27th. There is a lot of upside. You know, we did the feasibility study at 92 cents US a pound. We are feeling very comfortable about the lead price, and it looks very rosy in the future. And the other part of this story that's sitting underneath the Abra lead and silver mine is gold and copper. In February, what we did was we had a bit of an idea of where the gold and copper areas might be. We speared a hole right down through the apron, down into the core, and we had sort of 400 metres of really interesting, massive and disseminated chalcopyrite in that zone. What we've done at the moment is we've gone out and done some EM surveys. We're getting those results back at the moment, and then we're going to go back and explore that. Technically, it's been a little bit challenging, the gold-copper story, because they're quite deep drilling, and it's very hard to get the right orientation. So developing Abra gives us the drill cuddies that we need to really have a good look at what sits underneath the lead and the silver. So that is a really, really interesting part of Abra for the future, and I think that is a classic of what we're going to see in the Edmund Basin. So thank you very much. We're putting all the right steps in place. We've done this before. We know what we're doing. We're going to spear a decline into this area and just find out what's going on. By setting it up properly, that doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. In the interest of time, we'll move on to the next presentation.